As Prime Minister Begin put it in vivid and haunting words, if an enemy of the Jewish people says he seeks to destroy us, believe him.
Referring to Israel as a cancerous tumor that should be cut, the Islamic Republic's supreme leader says that Iran will help any nation or group that confronts the country.
In a televised speech, Ahmadinejad said the very existence of the Zionist regime is a, quote, affront to all world nations. He called on all human communities to, quote, wipe out this scarlet letter from the forehead of humanity. Another call for the destruction of Israel.
People can resolve their differences peacefully. The diplomacy can take the place of war. That in an interdependent world, all of us have a stake in working towards greater opportunity and security for our citizens. If we are serious about upholding these ideals, it will not be enough to put more guards in front of an embassy or to put out statements of regret and wait for the outrage to pass. If we are serious about these ideals, we must speak honestly about the deeper causes of the crisis, because we face a choice between the forces that would drive us apart and the hopes that we hold in common. But just as it restricts the rights of its own people, the Iranian government continues to prop up a dictator in Damascus and supports terrorist groups abroad. Time and again, it has failed to take the opportunity to demonstrate that its nuclear program is peaceful and to meet its obligations to the United Nations. So let me be clear, America wants to resolve this issue through diplomacy, and we believe that there is still time and space to do so.
Iran has been working on a nuclear weapon, according to a report published by the International Atomic Energy Agency, the UN watchdog, on November the 8th. It was the most detailed report so far about any military dimension of Iran's nuclear program. The IAEA, a few days after publication, underscored how serious it was.
I have this information and assessment. I must alert the world. This is my duty as the Director General.
According to the International Atomic Energy Agency, the Iranian nuclear program is actually accelerating. They have enough enriched uranium now for close to 5 nuclear devices. And that program, big parts of it, thousands of centrifuges, are moving underground to places where our capabilities will be incapable of reaching them. And this is a country which, as you said, never misses an opportunity to say that they want to wipe Israel off the map. Just yesterday, the Supreme Leader said just that.
In 1979, I was a young foreign correspondent. I'm also a recovering journalist. And a revolution broke out in Iran. And the Shah fled and the Ayatollah Khomeini returned to Iran from France. And I was asked to cover all this. And I can remember very distinctly, very vivid memory, going to the holy city of Qom in Iran to see the Ayatollah Khomeini. He was a figure like out of the Bible. He had the turban and, of course, the big white beard and the kind of dark eyebrows and the big black cassock. And he didn't smile. He didn't wave. He wasn't like an American politician. He wasn't doing this and all that. So he wasn't doing it. And people, when they saw him, they were just in awe. And eventually he just waved his hand and the crowd went wild. The women were ululating, no, 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 no. And people are holding up babies for him to bless. And my producer for this show, who was an Iranian, and I would say a true believer, he turned to me and he said, "You are very lucky. In the whole history of the world, there have been only a few truly great men. There was Moses, there was Jesus, there was Muhammad, and now there is Khomeini, and you are in his divine, glorious presence." So something I think you need to understand, I'm going to say it now and then I'm going to try to convince you it's the hard truth. For Israel, Egypt is a problem, Lebanon is a problem, Syria is a problem, J Street is a problem, many American university professors and journalists are problems, I could go on, but all these problems are eclipsed by the theocratic regime that rules Iran. That regime represents an existential threat a threat to Israel's very existence. Just listening to what Iran's rulers actually themselves say, they say it very clearly, but most of the elite media do not report what they say. So I want you to hear it in their own words. Iran's current supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, recently called Israel a cancerous tumor, adding it will be removed. That is a threat, my friends. That is a threat of genocide, which is supposed to be illegal under international law.
No, Martha, yesterday was Yom Kippur, the holiest Jewish holiday, which is actually a day of atonement. And I think what the world has to do, especially after yesterday, but had to do long ago, is atone for the fact that it is, A, allowed this lunatic, ranting, extreme fundamentalist person to even enter the United States and take the stage, and also not listen carefully to what he has to say.
The UN should be ashamed of itself for allowing him to speak in New York City on Yom Kippur. I mean, just a disgrace.
This was Ahmadinejad's 8th address to the UN and is expected to be his last.
The people of Israel live on. We say in Hebrew, Am Yisrael Chai. And the Jewish state will live forever. You see, at stake is not merely the future of my country. At stake is the future of the world. And nothing could imperil our common future more than the arming of Iran with nuclear weapons. To understand what the world would be like with a nuclear-armed Iran, just imagine the world with a nuclear-armed Al-Qaeda. They're both fired by the same hatred. They're both driven by the same lust for violence. Just look at what the Iranian regime has done up till now without nuclear weapons. In 2009, they brutally put down the protests, mass protests for democracy in their own country. Today, their henchmen are participating in the slaughter of tens of thousands of Syrian civilians, including thousands of children, directly participating in this murder. They abetted the killing of American soldiers in Iraq and continue to do so in Afghanistan. And before that, Iranian proxies killed hundreds of American troops in Beirut and in Saudi Arabia. Earlier this year, Iran threatened to close the Straits of Hormuz. The United States drew a clear red line, and Iran backed off. Now, red lines could be drawn in different parts of Iran's nuclear weapons program. But to be credible, a red line must be drawn first and foremost in one vital part of their program, on Iran's efforts to enrich uranium. In the case of Iran's plans to build a nuclear weapon, the gunpowder is enriched uranium. The fuse is a nuclear detonator. For Iran, amassing enough enriched uranium is far more difficult than producing the nuclear fuse. For a country like Iran, it takes many, many years to enrich uranium for a bomb. That requires thousands of centrifuges spinning in tandem in big, very big industrial plants. Those Iranian plants are visible, and they're still vulnerable. This is a bomb. This is a fuse. In the case of Iran's nuclear plans to build a bomb, this bomb has to be filled with enough enriched uranium. And the third stage and final stage, they have to enrich enough high enriched uranium for the first bomb. Where's Iran? Iran's completed the first stage. Took them many years. But they completed it, and they're 70% of the way there. Now they're well into the second stage. And by next spring, at most, by next summer, at current enrichment rates, they will have finished the medium enrichment and move on to the final stage. From there, it's only a few months, possibly a few weeks, before they get enough enriched uranium for the first bomb. Ladies and gentlemen, what I've told you now is not based on secret information. It's not based on military intelligence. It's based on the public reports of the International Atomic Energy Agency. Anybody could read them. They're online. So if these are the facts, and they are, where should a red line be drawn? A red line should be drawn right here. Before Iran completes the second stage of nuclear enrichment necessary to make a bomb, before Iran gets to a point where it's a few months away or a few weeks away from amassing enough enriched uranium to make a nuclear weapon. Now, each day that point is getting closer. And that's why I speak today with such a sense of urgency. And that's why everyone should have a sense of urgency.
I had the chance to be in Israel at a conference called the Herzliya Conference about 4 years ago, and I laid out 7 steps that the U.S. had to take to keep Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, and we haven't taken those steps. This president has failed. I understand he just gave an address today talking about all the great things he's done to provide greater peace and reduce the threat from Iran. That hasn't happened. This president failed to speak out when the dissidents took the streets in Tehran. He had nothing to say. This is a president who has failed to put in place crippling sanctions against Iran. He's also failed to communicate that military options are on the table, in fact, in our hand, and that it's unacceptable to America for Iran to have a nuclear weapon. I will have those military options. I will take those crippling sanctions and put them in place, and I will speak out to the Iranian people about the peril of them becoming nuclear. It's pretty straightforward in my view. If Barack Obama gets reelected, Iran will have a nuclear weapon, and the world will change if that's the case.
When Iran's leaders deny the Holocaust or speak of wiping this nation off the map, only the naive, or worse, would dismiss it as an excess of rhetoric. Make no mistake, the Ayatollahs in Tehran are testing our moral defenses. They want to know who will object and who will look the other way. My message to the people of Israel and the leaders of Iran is one and the same. We will not look away, nor will my country ever look away from our passion and commitment to Israel. As Prime Minister Begin put it in vivid and haunting words, if an enemy of the Jewish people says he seeks to destroy us, believe him. We've seen the horrors of history. We will not stand by. We will not watch them play out again. It would be foolish not to take Iran's leaders at their word. They are, after all, the product of a radical theocracy. Over the years, Iran has amassed a bloody and brutal record. It has seized embassies, targeted diplomats, and killed its own people. It supports the ruthless Assad regime in Syria. They provided weapons that have killed American soldiers in Afghanistan and Iraq. It has plotted to assassinate diplomats on American soil. It is Iran that is the leading state sponsor of terrorism and the most destabilizing nation in the world. We have a solemn duty and a moral imperative to deny Iran's leaders the means to follow through on their malevolent intentions.